have a couple of readings to share with you today that come from the contemporary movements of deep ecology and eco-philosophy. The first comes from Joanna Macy, who is also a Buddhist scholar and a scholar of systems theory as well as deep ecology. When we come together for this work, at the outset, we discern three stories or versions of reality that are shaping our world so that we can see them more clearly and choose which one we want to get behind. The first narrative we identify is business as usual, by which we mean the growth economy, our global corporate capitalism. We hear this marching order from virtually every voice in government, publicly traded corporations, the military, and corporate media. The second story that is shaping our world is called the Great Unraveling, if you will, an ongoing collapse of living structures. This is what happens when ecological, biological, and social systems are commodified through an industrial growth society, what we call business as usual. I like the term unraveling because systems don't just fall over dead. They fray, progressively losing their coherence, integrity, and memory. The third story is the central adventure of our time, the transition to a life-sustaining society. The magnitude and scope of this transition, which is well underway if we know where to look, is comparable to the agricultural revolution some 10,000 years ago and the industrial revolution a few centuries back. Contemporary social thinkers have various names for it, such as the ecological or sustainability revolution. We call it the Great Turning. Simply put, our aim with this process of naming and deep recognition of what is happening to our world is to survive the first two stories, to keep bringing more and more people and resources into the third story. Through this work, we can choose to align with business as usual, the unraveling of living systems, or the creation of a life-sustaining society. The second reading is from the book, The Systems View of Life by Fritjof Capra and Pier Luigi Luisi. It's a great name, right? Deep ecology does not separate humans, nor anything else from the natural environment. It does see the world not as a collection of isolated objects, but as a network of phenomena that are fundamentally interconnected and interdependent. Deep ecology recognizes the intrinsic value of all living beings and views humans as just one particular strand in the web of life. Ultimately, deep ecological awareness is spiritual awareness. When the concept of the human spirit is understood as the mode of consciousness in which the individual feels a sense of belonging, of connectedness to the cosmos as a whole, it becomes clear that ecological awareness is spiritual in its deepest sense. Hence, the emerging new vision of reality is consistent with the so-called perennial philosophy of spiritual traditions. The essence of deep ecology is to ask deeper questions. We need to be prepared to question every single aspect of the old paradigm. Eventually, we will not need to abandon all our old concepts and ideas, but before we know that, we must be willing to question everything. So deep ecology asks profound questions about the very foundations of our worldview and way of life. It questions this entire paradigm from an ecological perspective, from the perspective of our relationships to one another, to future generations, and to the web of life of which we are all a part.